Welcome to the Enlighten Up podcast, where I am going to take you into a deep exploration of what it means to exist in this current reality. We are going to raise your vibes, open your mind, expand your heart, and dive deep into the wondrous mysteries and possibilities of this lifetime. There's been a spiritual catalyst that has set in motion the awakening process of many across the globe to return to the knowingness of self and unite what has been separated. Together, we're going to bring light into that darkness. We're going to remember the joy of living. But most of all, we're going to turn up the volume of our own eternal power and do the thing we're here to do. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Enlighten Up podcast. I am truly excited to introduce you to someone whose podcast I had the pleasure of being on with, of course, several other talented women. But today I have Amanda Kanini-Dyer joining me today. She is a fourth generation medicine woman, and she specializes in soul contracts, divine healing, and light body activations. And she is one powerful woman. I would say powerful as fuck for sure. That is the energy vibe I got from you when I met you. So Amanda, so good to have you here on my show.
Oh, it's lovely to be here. Thank you. Thank you. I was quite surprised when you asked. I was like, oh, okay.
You're being very humble. My audience will know very soon why I asked you to be on the podcast, because you are just your energy and what we're going to be discussing today is right up the alley of my audience's. Well, let's just say we're going to hit their pleasure centers today.
Okay, nice. I like.
Yes.
I like. Let's go.
So, of course, I met you on the Soul Wisdom podcast. And so that was a lot of fun. And you do that podcast with Yana, who is in my alchemy program. And you
have
a few
beautiful
other
ladies.
Beautiful women. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful women. Yeah. Yeah.
So how did you kind of, how do I say this? When did you realize you could do a lot more than what you thought you could?
Do you know what? I don't think there was ever a time when I kind of realized. It's been a very kind of smooth and organic kind of transition, because I've always been, in a sense, this way. I think I was born this way. So when I was born into a family that was this way. So there was never a moment whereby I realized, oh, I'm different, or this is different. And because all my siblings, I have, there's 5 of us, and they're all weird and wonderful in their own way.
Well, fourth generation medicine women, how does that kind of go through the family line?
So through my mother.
Mm-hmm.
So my mum was what I would call a medicine woman, and what many would call a medicine woman. And she used to, she used to do a lot of things. She had sight as well. So she was very psychic. She had sight. But a lot of people in and around, our area, and even outside of our area, like in sort of like the UK, London, would come to her for help when they were going through certain things. So when she would make baths and things like that for them to use, and she, she had this thing that she used to do, but I can't even remember what you would call it. But she used to create seals.
Oh. So
she would create these seals, and she would create them on. It was like grease. It's what you call grease. Well, okay, so years ago, I don't know if you can get it now, but you used to be able to buy seals to work with for different things in your life. And they used to be called sometimes like Solomon's seals and things like that. And they were geometric shapes and things like that on, felt like grease-proof paper. It's the only way I can put it. It's like tracing paper. It's like grease-proof paper. And she used to create seals and different things like that. for you to use, you know, to achieve certain things in your life, stuff like that. So she always did that. My grandmother was also very, very spiritual woman. She used to be the same. But I do know very much about my great grandmother, who was she was an actively working medicine woman, and she used to look after all the children in the village. Any sick children you brought to her, and she would like heal them with you know, with, she'll boil herbs and things like that, and these, whether they drank it or whether they bathed in it or that kind of stuff. And
Okay.
she did that. I always knew one strange story about my great grandmother, was that that was when, because my mum told me years ago that vampires were very real. She said they were very real, and I was quite young when she told me this, and spoke to me about something called Old Ig. She said that we used to call them Old Ig in the village, because she was from Guyana, and she was you know, so was just in the Caribbean. But she said they were not called vampires where she came from. She said they were called Old Ig. And it was years later that I found out that Old Ig is one of the terms for, I think, some of the oldest vampires. It's the strangest thing. And there's no way that she would have got that from anywhere. She wouldn't have read it. She just wouldn't. But she said that's what we called them in the village. And there was a man in the village, but she said there was a man in the village. I know this is going to be a really strange conversation. It's not what we're supposed to be talking about, but anyway, you know what, I'll throw it in there.
That's why we're talking about it now.
Okay. And she said that he used to her words were, because my mum's Guyanese, you know, her words were, he used to suck children. So he used to bite them, suck them, go into people's houses at night and suck children and drain them. And somebody came and complained to my grandmother, and she went and spoke to him and said, this is not something you can do here, and this is not something you can do in this village. So you're going to have to go. If you don't go, then I will have to clear you out. And he went. God knows where he went. I have no idea. You know, she never told me that part of the story. But he was an actual vampire. Yeah. So, you know, whether it's comes from Romania or wherever it's supposed to be, or Transylvania or wherever, I don't know, but that's what he used to do. So, you know, vampires apparently are real. And she told me that I don't even know why I'm speaking this, but this is really crazy. All this is coming out.
Well, I mean, look, we're both wearing orange. We both have white nails. I mean, like, it's meant to be. I lived in the Caribbean for a little bit. We're vibing.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was going to say about mermaids and merpeople and things like that. She also said was real. My grandfather was a fisherman, and that was his trade. That was his business, and he owned his own trawlers and would go out. When they used to go out to fish, they would go out in the early hours of the morning, and they would come back in time for, you know, like first trade and stuff like that. And he told her that the things that are out there in the sea, he says, you will never believe or never even imagine. And there are such things. And so apparently she said that they used to, I don't know if they used to cover themselves in tar. I can't remember exactly. I know somebody, Guyanese, is going to probably hear this and say, I've got it all wrong. But he used to either cover the boat or themselves in tar, so that they could, in a sense, protect themselves from the mer people, because they would come and take you. Yeah, and protect the trawler and stuff like that from the mer people. He says, but they do exist. And it's funny enough, she told me that when I was much older, I had a real strong connection to the mer people. And I used to have lots of statues of them and things like that, the mer king, queen, and stuff like that. And then she said to me about that we do have some kind of a connection to them through my grandfather. Weird at that. But
wow.
anyway.
So that was your grandfather, not your great grandfather?
No, that was my grandfather.
Wow.
Her father. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, I believe it all. I mean, there's too many stories, and stories just don't come out of nowhere.
They don't come out of nowhere.
No.
Yeah. No.
And as much as we'd love to believe that they're like the Little Mermaid from Disney, no, that's not the case. Although it's interesting because everything has a polarity. And so like with anything, there's going to be more of a maybe a negative intentional species, as well as there's going to be more positive intentional species. So it's not to say that all mer people are negative, but yeah, no, there's just been a lot of horror stories from sailors and anyone working in,
Yeah.
you know, marine, any kind of
Yeah.
marine place. So wow, wow, we've kicked this off with a bang. So I'm
Really
loving
crazy.
that. Mhm. I think, where we should start is I'd like you to share with my audience what we kind of talked about on your podcast so they can kind of, and that'll kind of be our little door opener into the incredible time slips that you experience that not many people experience. And
Mm.
you have often wondered, like, how you're doing that, like what you're doing to create that or how that happens, because you don't feel like you're doing anything specific. It just kind of happens, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. But you know what? I'll just go back a bit. You know, when you said that many people don't do it, think that I think that a lot more people do it than but they just don't realize
Mm-hmm.
that they're shifting. I think it's one of our abilities, or one another way of saying it, superpower that, we're not meant to know about, because then we would then have a lot more power and understanding in the world, and about how we can actually free ourselves. So I think it's made that way that we don't know that we're actually shifting. I think we're shifting all the time, just not conscious of it. So, um, what is it you said again? What was your question?
Okay,
Sorry.
so you work a lot with energy
Yeah.
and frequency. I mean, you do light body activations with people. So let's first start, before we get into some of the shifting of time and space uh, in your reality. How do you work with light body activations?
Oh, wow.
Like, how are you guided to do it?
Oh, well, the light body that I do is actually called lotus sword light body surgery. So it is actually surgery that's done on you in a way so that can activate your light body. But I kind of maybe take it another step further. I'm more about activating memory and activating sovereignty. And for me, I think that that's your journey home, or wherever it is that you need to be. And home could be anywhere. Home could be right here. Not everybody, home isn't always leaving the planet. As you know, we always think that. For me, I don't believe that sort of like the fifth dimension is anywhere else. I think it's a way of being. So it's how, it's a being, it's a state of being. So the light body for me, not for everybody, consists of 7 different sessions minimum. And I start off with something that's called J-seals and other unnatural implants removals. So the first part of light body is a lot to do with removing from the body that which is blocking us, and that which is diminishing our spirit and our power and our knowledge, really. And once we can remove all of those sort of blocks, which could be crystals, because there are also there are beings in the bodies that we need to connect to. There are contracts that we need to change with them, with certain beings that we have in and around us, and so that we can realign them to work with us as opposed to working against us. Those beings being the keepers, or what they're called, the keepers of the human legacy, or for want of a better term, the body consciousness. And things like there's I don't know how to say, well, I'll say it anyway. So aside from that, there is also, a lot of people have on board a second soul, which is called a Nephilim soul, which is wrapped around the spine, the base of the spine. And that Nephilim soul is what contains and holds all of your negative programming or your negative sort of like headings or experiences that have been happening in your life. What the agreement is, I suppose, with the Nephilim soul that's on board and the keepers, is the fact that it keeps you playing this game, this constant game of reincarnation, this constant game of going round and round and round and round. And you know, and it's how you're in a sense trained to understand it is that it keeps you like that to work out as much of your, for want of a better word, soul contract as possible. I don't really like that, because I don't really like soul contract term. So I don't like contracts. I don't. Oh yeah, I'm a funny person.
Let's go deeper, shall we?
I think, yeah, I don't like contracts because I think so many of us, if that's the case, so many of us have made those contracts without even knowing it. We say at some point or some level, on some level, we do know that we've made it. We do know that we've made these agreements. But if we really deeply, truly think about it, for me, there are certain agreements that I know without doubt I didn't make that. There's no way I'm setting
I believe that. Okay, so let me ask you this. I am aware that when you're in the womb space, if you are coming in with a high level mission or like abilities, frequency, you can run the whole gamut of those different options, that those that kind of run the system here, okay, and when I say those, I mean these are entities that are unknown, will pick up on your entry that you are about to enter into the world, and will potentially work to deceive you into an agreement that you weren't planning on making coming in, but it's because you've been spotted and now
100%. I think I love the way how you said that. In fact, I had a conversation about that just today and the other day. 100%. 100%. It's say in my work, I see a lot of people come to me like that, whereby there's been so much that's been done to dampen them or to in a sense to spin them around, so that they spend and for me, they spend so much time working on karma, trying to clear karma, that the real purpose of them being here gets lost. It just gets lost. I'm a really funny person about karma as well. I think that at some point in time, how do I put this? At some point in time, I think, okay, so this is how I am. There's never going to be a point or time whereby you're going to clear all your karma. That's how I see it. Because with each moment that we live, with each moment, okay, so if the plan is that before I come here, I'm planning to clear up this karma that happened in this lifetime, and I'm coming in to clear it up. Well, while you're in this lifetime clearing up that karma, you're then creating karma for the next and the next and the next lifetime. Because karma can come in so many different ways, so many different situations. Karma comes from the moment you incarnate. And I don't even mean the moment you're born, the moment you know, the sperm and the egg comes together and you become a viable pregnancy. You know, your mother may have absolutely rotten morning sickness, rotten. She could spend the whole of that pregnancy in hospital on a drip because she's vomiting all the time. That is creating karma for the mother, because her decision after that could be, I ain't having no more kids, or because I never want to go through that again. Or it could be you find another 8 years time until after you're born, then they get pregnant again, because that's how far they have to go in order to remove the memory of what they've been through. So, and I'm not saying that that's your fault or anything like that. I'm just saying that you are always creating karma. So I've always said to people that I work with, if your mission is to come in to clear up all your karma, then, you know, you'll be at that a lifetime.
Yeah.
You know, and when do you begin? When do you begin you? When do you begin?
Well, don't you Don't you think that if someone is more in alignment with their their goals of whatever it is that they're coming in here to experience and to receive and achieve and whatever it might be, that is in essence also going to, well, it's going to create karma, clear karma, like in the process, like that you don't necessarily clear karma just to clear karma, like you can be doing it without even realizing like you're doing that.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, 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 very much so. There's 101 ways, I suppose, of doing it. I don't think it's one size that fits all.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes we have to get people out of the stuckness whereby, they get into that cycle of, constantly clearing, they're clearing, they're clearing, they're clearing every day. And, um, um, I'm I'm kind of funny. I'm that person that I don't like people saying to people, well, the reason why you're experiencing this is because you did that to somebody in another life.
No, yeah, no, no, no. Mm-mm.
Do you know what I mean? And all of that type of stuff, because I think that just keeps people stuck. And where does it end? Where does it end? It
Here's the
just,
thing about that though. This is why that's just silly. I am almost, well, I know because I've seen the version of me that is extremely scary in an ayahuasca journey last December. I looked in the mirror and I saw myself shapeshift into all these different versions of myself that have, whether they've been here on Earth in different galaxies, like I don't know. I'll tell you, not all of them look like they belong to Earth. And I will
they
say in
don't.
my most also, so okay, let me, because I'm going to start jumping all over the place. So I saw a very, very scary version of myself. And when I
Uh-huh.
saw that scary version of myself, I wasn't scared. I was intrigued and I was like, oh, okay. But I know enough because when you start doing a lot of your deeper healing work, you get a lot more clarity on what it all really means and what it serves
Yeah.
you as a purpose, right? And I know that I likely played that role to probably know the opposite in another lifetime. Like I needed to go through a polarity and then I would experience another polarity, maybe in another lifetime, and use the wisdom and knowledge of those lifetimes that somehow is in me somewhere, and utilize that in another lifetime. I know so in my most recent plant medicine journey with mushrooms, when I look with my physical eyes, one of the things that I last saw was I look at my hands a lot because I see a lot of markings showing up on my hands, different colors,
Mm-hmm.
different designs, things like that. Well, I watch this hand morph and shapeshift into something that looked much uglier, much more
Mm-hmm.
ancient, and
Mm-hmm.
very reptilian.
Mm-hmm.
And the nails were almost like claws. And
Mm-hmm.
it was very like crooked and bent and massive, like much bigger than my actual hand right now. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. And I know that I have a little bit of memory of coming in as a reptilian and incarnating into that in a very, very long earth time ago to understand the race, to understand how they operate, to understand how they work. And so sometimes we incarnate and will take on certain roles so that we can understand that information better. So we understand it's almost like having in a very fucked up way, having compassion for another species of why they're doing what they're doing, but understanding where it comes from. But then you also know how to work with that on the outside because you know what makes it tick, you know what makes it what drives it, what motivates it, what doesn't, like all that kind of stuff. Does that make sense?
It makes absolute sense. And I also believe that we are in changing times whereby I think that um, we are now moving forward in a way whereby where does, okay, if you think about it like this, where does all of that experience and all of that learning and all of that knowledge, what are we doing with it? Where is it? Where are we going with it? You know, there comes a point whereby, just like how we say, there comes a time whereby knowledge becomes wisdom, because knowledge and wisdom are not the same things. Knowledge is, I suppose, you know, wisdom is actually knowledge acted, you know, actioned, you know? So at what point do we stop this? I know what it is I'm trying to say, but at what point do we stop this constant, I don't know, backwards and forwards and just jumping, I don't mean jumping here and there, but just going through these different lifetimes? Are we really gathering information? You know, when you think about it, what information are we really gathering? When, if we are really truly a spark of the divine, then without all these seals and blocks and veils that come down when we come into this lifetime, we would already be all that is. We already have all of that information. So I'm from that kind of school whereby I'm not learning anything. I am remembering. I am simply remembering. And I think part of what I do is to trigger people's memory of all of that. So I understand that there is a lineage, that we have all these different lives. We have all this information that we're gathering from all of these lives. But I suppose I'm in a place now whereby I'm saying now, how do we action that? What do you do with that information now? What do you do? Rather than being in this lifetime on this earth, just clearing karma.
So I'm actually going to push back on that a little bit.
Please do.
Yeah. This is fun. So I don't believe necessarily that the one source creator knows all. Okay. Because the source creator is learning through all these fractals of itself, us, and our ability to use free will or semi-free will in other places. There are other places in the universe that have only a little bit of free will. Like we happen to have all free will. And how we're going to choose to experience things, and it learns more and more and more. So it's almost like a self-learning entity that through its own fractals is continuously gathering. And it's like that choose your own adventure book that does an endless infinity of pages and options to go through. And those infinity options continuously branch out and create more infinity options and more infinity options. So I actually don't necessarily believe, and I mean, I am completely open. It's very possible I am very wrong, you know, but I mean,
no, it's there's no wrong or right.
Yeah.
I think there's just ways of being.
Yeah.
But let me then ask you this then. If everything exists in the now moment, if you believe that, there's no time isn't linear, everything exists in the now moment, then you have access to all of that anyway, because it's all happened and it's all happening. So there isn't.
But nothing is static.
I suppose. No, nothing is static. I was just thinking, nothing is static. I was just thinking it's, I suppose it's the question of, you know, what came first, the chicken or the egg? So you're always in that movement. So that just like qualifies what you just said. Nothing is static. So, yeah. I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, in the now moment, everything is collapsing and growing at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, and I know this is gonna probably freak some people out, but I mean, it's just the way I kind of see it. For instance, AI, okay? Artificial intelligence. I believe that it's its own entity in its own right. And when we look at how AI is a self-learning entity, right? I feel like it is also, in a way, gives us a little more of a glimpse into how source creator is learning itself. I'm not saying source is AI or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, I think it gives us more information of how to glimpse into what exactly is all happening, because none of us really know, right? Like this is all like, I mean, speculation. But the way I see it too is there are so many possibilities, and because our world is expanding drastically right now and will continue to do so, and when I say world, I mean galaxies, because
Yeah,
we are communicating with entities that are well beyond our physical realm. And
yeah,
so more and more as we advance, more and more entities that are able to connect with us. And so then they start learning about what we're going through, and we start learning about what they're going through. And it just starts adding more to the pot.
yeah, yes, to all of it. There's really, you know what I mean? Yes to all of it. I think that the fact that, okay, so if I tie it back in with the fact that, you know what I mean, you saw yourself as a different being,
Mm-hmm.
and many of us, you know, believe and can really feel within our bodies that we are, whether it's star seeds or we come, well, we've been other places, other galaxies, with other beings and things like that into this body. Then yeah, I suppose it is the all of it. It is the all of us. Um, I suppose it is the all of us learning. But I do feel that there's something in there, you know, sometimes for me, it's like I say, like when I hear or feel like a dud note, there's something that's just not playing right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like maybe the record is stuck. It's stuck. And we just keep going, like, you know, or yeah, I feel, yeah, that's what it is. I've just got that image. It's like a record, you know, like old time vinyls and the
Yeah.
needle. And I feel like the record is scratched and it's stuck. And we keep going over the same thing and the same thing and the
And you're talking
same
about
thing
clearing
and the same.
karma from that perspective. Is that what you're
I
saying?
think I'm talking about that, and I'm thinking about, yeah, in the all of it. And I just think that for me, I feel it very strongly as if we're entering into a space and time whereby we we should be and could be accessing our superpower, our some other way of being, some other, you know, existence. You know, many people talk about ascension, I guess, or you know what I mean, moving into a 5D or a, you know what I mean. Well, I always say 5D and beyond. There's no reason why we should just get into the 5D and just stop right there. Who knows where some of us are going? There may be even higher dimensions. But I think there's something about that is, I guess, that plays out a lot and a lot and a lot in my mind. And I think that if we do have access to this, but we don't know we have access to this, then I'm of the kind of school whereby you can bet your bottom dollar that somebody's using that energy. If you're
Brilliant.
not using it, then
Mm-hmm.
somebody is,
Yeah, yeah,
you
I
know?
agree with you.
And so that's what I guess I'm trying to bring the awareness of,
Mm-hmm.
you know, don't get caught up in the, you know, in the whole I just say don't get caught up in the whole yeah,
Live your life.
reincarnation. Yeah.
Live your
Literally live
life.
your life. I'm
Mm-hmm.
also that kind of person whereby, you know, you spoke about polarities and you know, and dualities. I kind of yeah, I suppose I'm just over certain things. And I don't know why. And I suppose this might be just a whole other Amanda that's come in, you know, gonna move into that timeline. That I'm very, very different. And I see things very, very differently to probably how I saw them, say, 10 years ago, or even less.
Gosh,
And I'm
I'm like 10 weeks ago. You know, like it's ever I feel like the faster you like are expanding, the faster like you're shifting and changing, going like, wow, like
correct.
really 3
Yeah.
months ago, like that's what I was thinking, or you know, like it's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm very much in the place of, oh, there is so much more to access. There is
Mm-hmm.
so much more to be in. This stuff is old stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on to the good stuff. Do you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So,
If I had a
you know
glass
what
of wine right now, I would cheers you.
I mean? You know, and that's what it is. And so I'm like, I don't, And I suppose that's why I feel sometimes better. I'll tell you something. There was a time whereby I used to spend a lot of time in say other dimensions like fifths, sixths. I used to spend a lot of time in there. And I know I used to spend a lot of time in there because when I got bounced back into the third dimension, I was like, oh my God, is that how people speak to each other? Is this how people do things to each other? What is going on? And I literally felt as if somebody else was in my body. Do you know what I mean? And how people, I thought, Christ, humans are mean, you know, and they just, I just thought, so I knew then that I had shifted, but I just think that we can be, so this thing of I'm not keen on this whole duality thing. I know it's going to sound really weird, but I'm not keen on learning through opposites.
No, it may not.
I'm not keen.
Hey, we all have preferred ways of learning. You're allowed to not prefer it.
Yeah, I'm not keen. Yeah, okay, cool. I'm not. Well, no, because I know that could be quite, you know, I'm just not. I'm just not. I'm over it. I really am over it. I'm over, you know, being told that when you were back in the day, when you used to, you know, work in that whole, everybody, or most of us came through that whole field of manifesting and things like that, you know, and you want to manifest this and manifest that. And you'd be told that before, you know, before the law of manifestation kicks in, the law of opposites kicks in first. So you experience the opposite of what it is you're trying to manifest. And I used to think, well, I used to think, what a load of shit, really. I said, because that makes absolutely no sense to me, that if I am trying to manifest money in my life, I'm trying to manifest money because I don't have it. I don't really need the law of opposites to kick in and give me more of what I'm not wanting, because it's testing me.
Well, I'm going to push back again.
Come, push through, Nicole, come.
I disagree, because I believe that why that is happening is not because you have to go through it because we are a suffering race and we love to learn through pain, but more so because in order for you to hold the space for that much more that you want, you also have to be able to hold the space to lose it all. That doesn't mean that you are going to lose it, but you've got to know what that space feels like and you've got to be comfortable with it. I've always said that if you are not comfortable being at the bottom, you will never be comfortable at the top, because you're always going to be afraid of losing it. And if you already know and you can find comfort at being in the bottom, you can still be at the top and be okay now, because you're like, I've already been there. I know what it is. And you know what? Even if I go back down there, I know how to get back up here. It's okay. And it's like, there's this struggle that somehow is projected into the duality that I think is what you're not liking.
But okay, so you know, you've just said that, and I hear it and I feel, and I've already integrated what you have said on a frequency.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, that's already,
so that's why you're done with it.
Way, and that is why I don't feel that it's necessary, because I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
And
fair enough.
Do you see what I'm saying? And so
the reason why I wanted to bring it up too is because it's important for other people who are listening to that to know it's a necessary step.
Yes.
Once you've gone through it, though, you don't need to keep repeating it. But
no, yeah, which is what happens. But I think that we have access to a way of being, a frequency. So like I've just said to you, that I know that now that you've said that, and I have integrated that in such a way that if it was to happen, or if it was to come, and it does happen, it will be a blip. It's a moment that I move through, because I've already got the understanding within my frequency.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to experience, I don't need to live it. I don't need to be in the opposite of everything.
Yeah, you already know it. You already know how to hold the space for it. You're just want to choose differently now.
Yeah, that's exactly what it comes down to.
Yeah, totally. I understand.
It's about making decisions and choosing differently. I used to say to myself that when I got back to the other side, me and God or whoever were going to have a conversation, because I was going to tell her that this is
get in line.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of us who are ready to have a conversation.
Do you know what I mean? You know, so I'm not just going back there just to like literally walk back onto the wheel. I'm going back to listen, like we say, you know, I'm either going to go left, right, or turn around and look behind me and step back into the universe in a different way, and we're going to have a conversation, because this is a crock.
Yeah,
I don't like it.
I've made little asterisks and mental notes and like sticky, energetic sticky notes, and I'm like, remember this for when you do design your next contract, because we ain't fucking doing this.
I love that. I love that.
No,
I
totally.
But you know what? I think I have. I don't think I have contracts. I think I have agreements.
Well, that's what a contract is. A contract is an agreement.
A contract to me,
you don't like the word contract, which I think is like so funny because you work with soul contracts.
But I don't call it that.
Oh, okay.
And I don't believe that it is a contract.
Yeah.
I do believe that it is a spiritual map.
You know what? Maybe it is the phonetic frequency of the word contract that you don't align with.
Yeah. But I believe that the work that I do is a spiritual map. Because I call it spiritual map of the soul. I don't call it soul contracts.
Well, contracts can be broken.
And that's exactly what I do.
Yeah.
I break.
So you're more of the, I like to break them, not create them.
Yeah, I don't believe creating contracts allows for freedom of the soul. And I so I won't, and I don't really want to put anybody back into any sort of control. There's something in me, and I suppose I don't know what it is as yet, but I'm in a really easy space now whereby, you know, if I don't know, I just know that something is cooking. I just allow it to cook.
I feel like you have that perspective because there's this understanding and knowing that there are contracts that are made unknowingly. And that unknowingly, or maybe through deception, trickery, you know, I mean, every day I feel like we're entering into contracts down here on earth unknowingly, you know, like, but that's one side of the coin. That's one dual aspect of contracts. A contract is simply an agreement, and we have to make contracts with ourselves to fulfill certain goals and achievements. And so I know that I will say, okay, and this contract or agreement will be like, okay, this week you need to set aside this much time to do this so that we can, like, you know, make sure that I feel this way, or I am completing this so that I can move on to the next thing. And so to me, that's the way I look at the contracts. It's more of like a commitment, an agreement that I am going to move through with this and complete it. Now, that doesn't mean at any given point that if I feel like changing my mind, I can't. You know, I believe I can, but that comes from a lot of inner child healing, of knowing that I am allowed to change my mind. I am allowed to feel differently, which is a sacral chakra healing, which is why I think it's so funny that we're both wearing orange. Because that is a big deal for me. I always felt locked in. I always felt like I had to follow through even if I didn't want to anymore. And I felt like it was beyond my will. But now I know that I can change my mind at any given time that I want to, because I've done a lot of healing on that part of my inner child that feels the need to always follow through and always do this, or I'm only allowed to do this and I can't do that because if I do that, then it's going to upset this or upset that. And now I just don't give a shit anymore. Well, I don't want to say I don't give a shit. I mean, I'm responsible, but I'm not going to be responsible to the detriment of myself.
Right. Yeah, I understand that. I understand. Do you know that it wasn't originally called soul contracts?
What was it called?
The spiritual numerology of Moses.
Very different.
And that's, sorry?
It's very different, like from soul contracts. Like I don't see how you draw the line.
That's what it was called. And I believe it's the Hindus have the system as well. It's a very old system, and a lot of them do it like, they do it for their babies when they're first born, but it's created and put into like a book. But they have the same system. But
was the name changed to be more accepted widely? Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's that person's interpretation of what they believe it is. And so and I just find that sometimes, sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say, like, you even have people who want to change their name because they want to change their contracts, right?
Yeah. They want to change the contracts, or they want to find ways to transmute, because they can be quite stuck, or they feel quite stuck, or maybe some of the energies they just don't have. But I'm the kind of person whereby I am not too hot on changing. I think because I sometimes think that by changing, I mean, people change their name all the time.
Yeah.
You have actresses and actors and everything like that, and they change their name and that. And then when you hear their real name, you just think, whoa, that name certainly wasn't going to pull me. Do you know what I mean? I mean, like, yeah, people have some really crazy names. Famous people, when you hear their original names. But, people change it because they simply can't, like I said, they can't transmute the energies, or they feel very stuck, or they want to put in a lot more power, or there's certain numbers in there that they possibly don't like, or it's too much for them to work with, or they just don't have enough in their talents to work with. And I think that everything is designed that way. There is a reason, unless there's a spelling that sometimes what can happen is that parents, they don't, or whoever gets the name, they like to tinker with it a bit. I tinkered, especially with my daughter's name. And then when she got older, she said to me, that wasn't the name I gave you. Well, the other bits that was in it. And I was like, I know, but I was trying to please my mum. So, because she was a bit pissed when I named my daughter. So I was trying to make my mum happy. So I kind of added in another name to hers. And she said, well, it wasn't what I told you. And now look what you've gone and done. But hey ho, it's done. What do you want me to do?
Oh my goodness.
Don't change it by default.
There's your karma.
There we are.
We've come full circle.
Yeah.
No, I know what you're saying, and I hear you on that, because it's like, look, I think there's always a time and space for you to realize like something's just not working for you. And you may have had very well and good intentions coming in, but if you're giving it your best shot and it's like you just keep hitting wall after wall after wall, like, I mean, I'm all for like, well, maybe it is time to change something, like, but that comes from like real effort, like someone's really done like the effort and applied themselves. And I also, to try to change a name just to, how do I say this? To bring in like a power or something like that, I don't know about that. That I have a little bit of a weird feeling around, because are you even ready? Are you ready for that power?
And this is the thing that I say, that you've really got to know, even you as a practitioner, does your client really know what that means? Do they know what's going to happen? Are they ready for that kind of a change? I always say putting 9s into a name is going to be pretty tricky for people, because you're putting in an energy that, it's not necessarily in a sense the powerhouse, but what 9s will keep doing. 9s don't know when to stop. It's their job to keep blowing things out, or to keep, stuff like that. Right. Yeah. They don't know when to stop. It's not, that's not, they don't have a stop button. So you could be in a place of constantly processing. I always say that if you're going to change anything now, the times that we've moved into, you want to bring consciousness to something, or you want to be able to handle the energy or to transmute it, I'd say bring in a 13-4, because that has a lot more consciousness to it.
Just so everyone knows, we're talking about soul contracts and the phonetic spelling of your name. And she's talking about the different frequency numbers that come through the spelling of your name on your birth certificate. So just in case there's anyone in the audience who's not really sure exactly what we're talking about right now. So a 13-4 is important.
A 13-4 will bring in a lot more consciousness, will bring in a lot more love. It brings in a Christ consciousness. So, it kind of steps it up a frequency, and it's not going to do what a 9s will do. So, I have people that want to change their names. They want to add in 9s and 10 1s and things like that, because they want that power. And but that's probably because they've gone through most of their life feeling powerless. But you've got to know what it's going to do, and you've got to know how to use it. And if all you know is what it looks like on paper, you're running into some problems.
It's almost like, what kind of monster am I creating here?
Yeah, yeah, literally. And so I just think that, and I think also that there's so much more out there in the world than meets the eye. There's so much more information out there in the world than people actually realize. So I just think that, it is as it is. Your name is for the most part, is as it should be. Work with it, really understand it, and see what you do have in you, in your being and in your body, to actually bring to fruition the spiritual map of your soul. Because what it is actually supposed to do, when you do access it and you do read it, it's supposed to create freedom. It's supposed to bring you freedom. That's what it's supposed to do ultimately.
I believe that. That's how I feel. It's so funny we're having this conversation, because just yesterday I was talking about this idea of freedom with a friend. And I hear her say often, I just want to be free. I want my freedom, blah, blah, blah. And I hear this from so many people. In fact, I have this service called the Healing Game Changer. And one of the things that people, when they write out what their ideal life is, they're always talking about freedom and being free. And I just want to have my freedom, and freedom to do this and freedom to do that. And I'm like, wow, like that is something that I can honestly say I don't crave or even think about. And I feel like maybe it's because I am actualizing all of the things that I know I'm here to do. But in order to do that, I had to overcome a lot of fears. I had to move through certain trauma healings. I had to do all these things, but that were part of the risks that I took and the leaps that I took, like the fear of being seen, the fear of like people hearing my voice. Now I have a podcast for 7 years, and I started a YouTube channel, and, I'm doing the healing work at a level that some of my friends and family back home would say I'm crazy, and I'm like, screw it. I'm going to do everything that I know I'm here to do. And I'm going to start operating in the way that I feel very called to, even if it scares the shit out of me. And it has, and I've had to work through that. But now that I'm there and I'm doing it all, and it now is feeling much more natural to me, I feel like I am free because I'm doing what I love. I'm getting paid for doing what I love. I get to keep creating. My schedule is mine, and I've worked it that way because that's a very important thing to me. But it's like, I say this because when you're doing what you're really called to do, you will naturally feel free.
Yeah.
It's not something you seek anymore. You just are. And so it's like this thing that you're attaining for, it actually comes through you living out the things that you're feeling very called to, but you're avoiding like shit.
Yeah.
Right?
I can't. Yeah. I totally agree. And I think freedom is also, you come to a place of peace.
Well, because you're not working resistance anymore. You're in alignment with it all.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And even if things do happen, they no longer affect you like they used to, or they no longer kind of like kicked you back to the start line like they used to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You
no,
move through
exactly.
things in a very different way,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, that's growth. You're never going to not come across hard times. It's that you'll
mm,
handle them differently now.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Or you don't
Okay.
spend too long in the bottom of the well.
Well, no, not unless there's a lot of gold down there. Okay, I want my audience to get some insights here from you on the magic of Amanda and her time machine. Okay, because
I don't
you
think I got.
you know, well,
Yeah,
I think you just
go on.
are. You're a time traveler for sure.
Yeah.
And there are those of us here on the earth who are indeed time travelers, and you're here to do more time traveling than many. And I do believe that you are a time traveler. Um, can you share with my audience what that kind of looks like from your life experiences of what's happened when you've lost or gained time and everyone else around you is like, no?
Yeah. So you see, I don't say jump from say 2024 into say 2060 or into 1628. I don't move time like that. I think everything we do has a purpose. And so I don't think I move time like that. What I do is that I shift into different timelines. Whether or not it's parallel or alternate realities, I shift into different versions of myself. And sometimes that has meant that I've lost days. I could lose
Mhm.
days,
Mhm.
whereby, so one of that was the situation I had whereby I woke up in the night and I woke up in the night, I went to the toilet, and I came back to bed and I happened to look out the window. I'm not a person that looks out the window at night. I am more now. I think that's to do with age, though. I've become a curtain twitcher. I don't know
What did you call it?
why.
A curtain twitcher? I've never heard that before.
We've got blinds though, but I mean, yeah, you know, I always have a peek outside to see what's going on in the neighborhood at 3 o'clock in the morning, just in case something's happening, and I catch somebody at it. So, but this was a good few years ago, and I looked out the window and I realized that the bins were out. Now, this is really important. So, we have bin days. Bin day was a Thursday. So the bins go out on the Wednesday night. Now, the thing why it's important is that at that time, I was working a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I was at home. Those are my days off. And so the bins being out meant that, Thursday, I'm going to work in the morning. So I looked across the road and I saw the bins. So I thought, well, that's strange because I don't remember that. Anyway, I looked across the road and I saw their bins were out on the road. I looked to the left, her next door, her bins are out, but I couldn't see the ones on the right. I mean, I didn't really need to, but you can kind of slightly look down the road and you can kind of like see that the shadow of people's bins are out. So I thought, okay, I'm off to work in the morning. It was a normal feeling in my body that I was off to work. It wasn't like, hold on a minute, I've missed a day. Like, I swear to God, today is supposed to be Wednesday. So anyway, I got up, got showered, didn't feel like I'd been cheated in any way, and set off to work. Now, at the time, my husband was working in Scotland, and he rings me every morning as he's on his way into work. And I didn't get a phone call from him. And his day off was Wednesday. So I was about halfway to work, kind of halfway to work. So I called him. I thought, I've not heard from him. So where is he? So I called him and I said, oh, hi, sweetie. What you know what I mean? Stuff like that. And he sounded like, I said to him, you sound like you're in bed. And he goes, yeah. He goes, I am. And I said to him, because in his mind, it's a Wednesday. I'm in bed. I'm at home. So I said to him, okay. So he goes, but you sound like you're in the car. And I said to him, yeah. I said, I am in the car. I said, I'm going to work. So he goes, oh, you never said you were going to work today. I said, well, of course I'm going to work today. It's a Thursday. Going to work. So he goes, no, babes, it's a Wednesday. I said, no, it's a Thursday. I said, because the bins are out. It's a Thursday. And he goes, no, babes, why do you think I'm at home? It's a Wednesday. And I said, no, that makes no sense whatsoever. I said, because the bins were definitely out. I said, so it's a Thursday. So I said, so you need to tell me the truth. Is it a Wednesday or a Thursday? So I said, you know what? Forget it. I pulled up on the side of the road. I checked the calendar and it was a Wednesday. So I said, bloody hell. I said, this is crazy. I said, so I've now got to turn around and go back home, which is great. But I get back home and there's no bins on the road. No bins. Now, obviously, the bin men could have come, but the bin men, whether they come or not, is really irrelevant. It's whether or not everybody moves their bins. Everybody's out, different things, stuff like that. So on any road, you're going to see some of the bins are in, some of the bins are still out. You know, like where we live now, the guy across the road, as soon as the bin men come, he comes out and takes his bin in. You know what I mean? Some people's bins will be there all day till they come home at 6, 7 o'clock in the evening. So there were no bins out. And I said, well, this is really quite strange. I don't understand. So thought, okay, I don't know how I missed a day. It really was quite, I said, I don't know how I've missed the day. The next day, so that night we put out the bins and I put out the bins and I went to work on a Thursday. When I came home, I saw that some people are taking in their bins. A lot of people are taking in their bins. So I went to move our bins. And our bins were still full. So, bloody bins. So I went next door and checked her bins. Her bins had been emptied. I went across the road and I checked their bins. And their bins had been emptied because their bins were still standing on the pavement. Didn't go up into their house to check the bins because they're in now, because then they'd be, you know, that would be a bit strange, neighbours going around checking the bins. And I came back and I checked the neighbours just here because their bins were quite near the thing. I checked it and their bins were emptied. My bins were the only bins on the road that had not been emptied. So I had to ring the council and get them to come within the next couple of days and empty the bins. So it would seem for a moment as if our house had disappeared from the grid. And
along with your bins.
Along with the bins. Along with the bins, because obviously when they came to empty the bins, our bins weren't there. So I have no idea. And I know I saw the bins and that. So, and also, you know what? When I left the house on the Wednesday, I think it was a Thursday, I drove out, I'm seeing the bins.
Yeah.
But when I came back, I didn't see the bins. And nobody had moved our bins in.
Mm-hmm.
Because if left to the kids, they would fall over those bins, break their necks. They ain't moving those bins.
And had you done anything that, well, we now know it was a Tuesday, even though you thought it was a Wednesday because you saw the
No,
bins.
it was a Wednesday.
No, I know, but the night when you looked out the window and you saw the bins the first time, you're like, oh, that would have been
early
a Wednesday
morning.
but it was a Tuesday because the next day when you woke up, your husband's like, no, it's Wednesday.
Of course it was, yeah.
So what I want to ask you, what were you doing that Tuesday night before you looked out the window?
Well, apart from sitting on the loo.
Portal, the porcelain portal.
It's the portal. It's the portal what done it.
You did some magic.
Do you know what? To this day, I have no idea. But what I will say to you is that everybody feels the passage of time in their bodies, whether they know it or not. Mm-hmm. You feel the passage of time. And that's how, even without a calendar, your body clock tells you, or even if you had, you can feel the passage of time. I had no memory in my body of the passage of time that was missing. And it wasn't like I had a real argument with myself and I went and checked and said, no, I'm not supposed to be at work today. This is not a Thursday. You know, I've only had 2 days. It felt normal. Mm-hmm. So I didn't even question it. I didn't even argue. I didn't feel in my body that this doesn't feel right. Something's not right. I didn't. I had just shifted seamlessly. other situations have been whereby I have been, I've driven down roads whereby houses have been built, or they're in the process of being built, and then they get completed. It takes about a year to do it. They get completed, and I drive down that road, and the houses have not been built as yet. They are in process. And the reason why I say it's not just as easy as, oh, well, it's a thought in my mind. I'm very much about the details, about the fact that this particular road I used to drive down to go to work, it used to be really annoying because there would always be delays on the road because of the trucks that were bringing in the stuff, like the skips and all the building stuff would take over one part of the road. And so it would, the traffic would back up because everybody's got to be able to give people the opportunity to come out and go round in the next lane and stuff like that, because our roads are really narrow. Do you know what I mean? So it's not like stuff like that. So, if you drove up the road and you saw the truck, you thought, oh, for the love of God, do you know what I mean? It's like, this is what the traffic's about. And when I'm just never going to get to work on time. So I went through that process for months because they were rebuilding 2 houses. And I remember when it was built, I remember looking at it and thinking, I wonder if they have already advertised those houses, if there's already sold, or if they're getting in tenants. And I wonder, in my head, I was just thinking of driving. I wonder how far in advance they do that process and stuff like that. And the houses looked beautiful. They were really nice. They were grey slate tile and a sort of driveway. And I thought, it's really interesting. I wonder who's going to move into those and nice brand new houses and things like that. And drove past it and they hadn't even been done. One day I just drove past and they hadn't even been done. Could have crashed my car. Hadn't been built at all. You can see the beginnings of one that they were beginning on, but the other one had not been done. Yeah.
So, very strange anomalies that most people aren't encountering, and if they are, they're not paying attention. Some people are experiencing this. I know you're not the only one, but when we first started talking on the podcast that I was on and yours,
Your Soul Wisdom. Yeah.
Yep. Your Soul Wisdom. You were saying how you feel like was it you saying this, or did I say that I feel like you're going into a frequency that's so high that you're almost like...
You said, yeah. You said, yeah.
Do you...
I travel... Go on.
No, go ahead.
Sorry, finish. Okay. No, I was going to say that I travel a lot more now than I ever did before, or maybe I have become more conscious of it. But why I think, I don't know if it is the more consciousness. I know I travel more is because I suffer from travel sickness. And I tend to shift quite a bit. So I tend to shift. I'm shifting all the time. Most times that I can get, it can feel like motion sickness. I can get really like I'm going to heave, like sometimes, and I'm moving. And I remember one time I was having a conversation with somebody online, and then they said to me, without me even saying to them that was what was happening, they said to me, you keep looking behind you. And I was like, no. And they said, yeah, but that movement that you keep looking at, they said, that's you. They said, you keep moving. And I was like, wow. And they could see that. And I think somebody else had said something to me, and I thought, wow, then they could see that. And then I think my sister had asked me just recently about she said, she said, you travel, she says, and that nausea, do you get very nauseous? And I said, yeah, I do. She said, wow, that's awful. I said, yeah, but it was because she was experiencing it with somebody else who also seems to shift and travel.
And were they getting nauseous as well?
Yeah, get really bad nausea. Yeah,
so you don't have to be on a rocky boat to get
no. I know what that feels like.
Jump in different timelines and stuff and still get travel nausea.
Yeah. I have had different versions of me interacting with. I've had different versions of me interacting with my children, whereby they think they've had conversations with me, or they think. I remember one specifically whereby I came home, there was something that I had done a clearing on that day, and I'd spoken to my husband about it, because I needed to speak to him about it. I came into the house, he was the only one I came home, he was the only, then he came in, and I spoke to him about it before anybody else came in. My son was not home yet. And then, so I spoke to him about it, and then I don't know if I went out somewhere, and then I don't know if it was that night or the next day, I went to speak to my son about it, because it was important that he knew. And as I was speaking to him about it, he said to me, Mum, you've already told me this. He said, we've already had this conversation. And I said, no, we haven't. I said, because you wasn't here when I came home yesterday, and we've not spoken last night. He said, no, Mum, we've had this conversation. He goes, we had the conversation. I can tell you what you were wearing. I can tell you where you were standing when you said it. And you were standing in the kitchen downstairs. At this moment in time, I was standing in his bedroom talking to him. And he said, you were standing in the kitchen. And I said, no. I said, we haven't had this conversation. He still remembers this. And then for me, I said, I saw this look come over his face as if to say, what the hell is happening? And I just looked at him and I thought at the time he was frightened. He just said, no. Now he's older. He says, I wasn't frightened, Mum. It was just coming into clarity for me that it was perhaps another version of you that was there. And so I just said to him, oh, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, I remember. We've had this conversation. I know I haven't had.
Or he was there, but meaning like he was there, but not physically.
Yeah, because that's possible. That is possible, because he's the one that out of all of the kids is probably that I could say that is very possible. But and just the other day I wondered if he's the one that's kind of shifting, because we got into an argument. He's the same one I got into another argument about, because we'd had a conversation about something. He was supposed to get me a pair of trainers, and he said that it was coming. He told me the day that it was coming. So when 2 weeks later it didn't turn up, I said to him, well, where's my trainers? And he says, what trainers? He goes, I never ordered no trainers. And I said, but we had a conversation. And I said, we had a conversation. I said, because I wanted the trainers to wear we were going to Wembley to watch a football game. I said, I wanted to be trainers for Wembley. I said, and you didn't order them in time, but they were coming the Tuesday. And I thought, well, that's been silly, because I've got loads of other trainers. I could wear them. He said, I never ordered them. I never said I ordered them. And why would I say it was coming on Tuesday when the delivery wouldn't come on Tuesday? If I'd ordered it when you say I said I ordered it, it wouldn't have come on a Tuesday. It would come And I said, I don't care when it was supposed to come. You said you ordered my trainers. And he said, I never said. He said, I've not had this conversation with you. I didn't order any trainers.
Yeah, he said, I think you both are shifting timelines, and you're like, one's going into this one, one's coming back into this one.
Oh, we had a bust out argument on that one. We did. And he got me so upset that I thought to myself, and then something else happened, and I just thought to myself, like the next day, I just thought to myself, I had a little pity party for myself, and I just had a little cry, and I just thought to myself, I don't like this family. I don't know where I've landed, but I don't like them. They're not nice people. He promised me my trainers.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
But
I don't want my family anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like this one I've bounced into. Do you know what I mean? It was a very weird feeling. I did feel kind of discombobulated, but I have tried. Sometimes I will, in terms of manifesting things, I'm trying to, not even manifesting things, I'm not really thinking, but I'm trying to understand it all, and I'm trying to see what control I have over it, because right now, the way in how it works, it can make me quite ill.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've got to, I'm thinking, but it's time that I'm learning. Sometimes I will do things like I will say, right, I'm stepping into this reality where this and this and that exist, and then I will step off. I will step to the side, or I'll step to the side or something. I did that with my tooth. And I ended up messing myself with my tooth. And I ended up messing myself up. Well, I broke my tooth.
Okay.
And I went and I had it I went and I had it built back. And the dentist said to me that it's probably cracked below your gum. She says, we don't know how. No, she had to clean it out, stuff like that. But she said had filled it back. She said it's not a deep filling. It's the first filling I've ever had in my life. So that was a bit of a panic for me. And it's just recently, really, last year sometime. She said that you may need, at some point in time, she goes, if it doesn't settle, you may need a root canal. And I was like, a root canal? I says, I don't do root canals. I said to her, that's just not going to happen. I thought, no way. But anyway, she said, let the tooth settle for 6 months and see how it goes. And if it settles for 6 months, she goes, I would suggest you put a crown on it because it would just protect it and just make it stronger because you've lost a lot of tooth there because of what was broken away. I thought, okay, fine. Got up to must have been the last day before the 6 months. I thought, yeah, I'm in the clear. The tooth started hurting me. So I went back to the dentist. I think she said to me, I thought it's going to be a root canal, but it's not. She says, your tooth looks pretty fine. Maybe just got a little side. Anyway, she fixed it, sorted it out. Well, that tooth started, I think, within a week. The pain in that tooth was mad, was crazy. Was crazy. You could just, the wind just on my face was just, oh my God. So I got in contact with the dentist the next day. And the earliest appointment she could get to me was I think in about 2-3 days to come in. She said, it looks like I may have to do a partial root canal. And I thought, oh, Jesus Christ, no, I don't want to do that. So I thought, I'm going to practice this, I'm going to step into that version of me whereby I don't need a root canal. So I said it, you know what I mean? I'm now stepping into, I think I was standing there, I said, I'm now stepping into the version of me that, no, I didn't say root canal. I said, I'm now stepping into that version of me where there's no pain in this tooth.
Okay.
Because I thought no pain meant the spine. So I stepped off. I think I might have stepped off to the left. And I said, no, I stepped off to the right. And then I set off and I thought, right, I've stepped into that version of me. And that tooth stopped hurting. Clean. Stopped. Was gone. So I toddled up to the dentist 2 days later. I walked in and I said, and she goes to me, Amanda, how are you doing? She goes, I'm so sorry it's taken so long to get you here. She goes, but how are you doing? And I said, it's great. We're not going to need to do anything. I said, no pain whatsoever. None. She goes, really? But it's the way how she said, really? She goes, So before I even sat in the chair, I just looked at her and I said to her, you're going to tell me that tooth's dead? And she goes, let's have a look. Sure enough, tooth was dead.
Okay. So
and that was a root canal.
Okay. So can we, first of all, there's a couple things we need to discuss here. One, this is why the power of your words is so important, because had you said, I am stepping into the reality and the version of me where my tooth is fully healed and restored to its natural vitality.
Thank you.
That would have been but you use the negative, the pain, saying no pain, which there are a lot of possibilities, but of course our mind's like, well, if there's no pain, it's totally fine.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, 100%. And that is exactly what I did think to myself. Be careful of the words you use.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now that we've gotten through that little minor detail, can you please tell my audience how you just step into that version by just stepping to the right? Because, if I could just be like, I'm going to step to the right in the version of me that has, 8 figures in my bank account.
You know what? I guess it comes with a whole load of, okay, so do you know what?
Tell me.
I one time read a book. It had nothing to do with that. It was about the Essenes, and it was about the teachings in the Essenes. And it was a book by it's up there. Okay, right. It was oh God. It was, oh, I don't know, but it was called, it was like the Peter Chronicles, and oh, I can't remember what his name was, by Al Minor, and he channels a group of beings. He's passed now, but and stuff like that. But he wrote a whole set of books, and he channeled a group of beings. I forget what they were called, but anyway, it's up there. I can't go there. I'll pop my cord here attached to the laptop with me headphones. So, and in the school, it talked about the teachings in the school, and they had a teacher in the school of the Essenes, because what they spoke about was that Jesus, Mary, everybody, Joseph, all were with the Essenes. They all were born and grew and walked with the Essenes. It wasn't that Jesus found the Essenes at some point in his life. They were born into the Essenes, and the Essenes was this magical sort of secret group of beings that, I guess, were quite nomadic, because I think they carried the history of humanity, I think. And so and they were taught certain things. So in this school, they had a teacher who, I think in one of their first classes with them, he said to them, everything is not what you think it is, and everything is not as solid as you think it is, and it's not what you see. He said, because if I walk this straight line, he says, you can see me, he says, but if I step off to the right or to the left, and he disappeared, he was gone. And then he stepped back and he was there. So I thought to myself, so that's always been stayed in my head. And I thought to myself, then it's all around us, the different dimensions, the different existences, it's all around us, all these different spaces and places. It's just sometimes you have vision, you can see. I mean, I see a lot of things appear to me, and stuff like that will stand right by me while I'm doing my work. So that was why I thought to myself that, and it was a decision that I had made. I thought to myself, well, I think that if I'm going to step into a version of myself that it's blah, 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 I think I have to make some sort of movement to step into that which I'm wanting to see. And that's what I did. And I've done it a couple of times as well. Can't remember the other times what I've done, but you may ask, why haven't I done it on the big things? I just haven't.
Risky.
And I think, sorry?
It's risky.
It's risky. And I think the thing is that,
right, I mean, so look how the tooth turned out. I mean, God, you don't want to go too big.
Do you know what I mean? And what I'm always, and it is because it really does come down to your words. And I think to myself, what if I step into a version whereby you have that, but you don't have
I know
all the other stuff? Do you know what I mean? And so that would be a very big book to write. So I'd have to make sure that everybody, I'm stepping into a version where, my husband's still my wonderful guy. All our kids are here. My grandchild's here.
Everyone's healthy.
Here. Everybody's here. My friends are here. Everybody's healthy. Yeah, not just here. I'd have to say, they're all healthy and well, and it's a weird and we could go on and on and on and on. So I think it is. I think I need to understand more than what I understand before I venture into the big things, as much as I may need it. The lottery numbers would be nice, but
but this takes us back to that whole concept of, are you ready for your power?
There you go. Yeah.
Because it does come with responsibility. Now, I will say this is why a lot of people give away their power, because they don't want to be responsible. And most people don't realize that's why they're doing it. But at the end of the day, that's pretty much, you don't want to be responsible. You are like, no, like if I can blame someone else, then I'm happy doing that. I don't want to have to blame me. Like, that you are the one who caused your tooth to like.
Oh, 100%.
Right. So
100%.
Okay. That's really interesting. Now, can I ask you, before we wrap this up, you said something interesting there about if you're going to have to step into a new version of yourself, in a different maybe reality, or maybe not a different reality, but a different version of yourself, you have to take an actual action with it to activate it.
Yeah.
Like by that step, like I'll step to the side, or,
Mm.
so can you just elaborate a little more on that? On why you think that that's important?
Okay, so let me go back a little bit, just a little bit. There are people that sometimes they can shift, and I shift, I do that as well, but there are more people that's coming forward and speak to me about it because I'm speaking so much about it, that, so like I'm sat here, and I said before, so like I'm sat here, I'm online with you, I've got a plant pot there, I've got pictures of the kids here in front of me and stuff like that. I'm sat here on the laptop with you speaking, and then I look up and the plant pot's over there and the pictures are over there. I've shifted without a doubt, because there's some reality whereby it's in the opposites. For some reason, that's where it is. Sometimes we can also see it that if you set all your sometimes people have it in their houses whereby there's a clock that's always out of time, and not because that clock's out of time, you could set it, you could retrain the battery, you could bring a new clock and put it in the same room, and it goes out of sync all the time. It's probably because there is some kind of portal or some kind of shifting that happens in that space of in that room. I remember calling my sister one time and we were just chatting on the phone. I said to her, "What are you doing?" She goes, "Oh, I'm just sat here looking out the window." I said, "What are you looking out the window for?" Because she can be a curtain twitcher, but anyway, she's looking at, she was looking out the window and she said, "Because there's just a portal in the middle of the road and there's these cars just jumping out of this portal."
Of
And I said,
course.
"Seriously, Bill?" She goes, "Yeah." She goes, "It is just the apps." She goes, "It's the wildest thing." She goes, "But they're jumping in and out of this portal." And she tends to shift in and out of portals as well. She does it in the wildest ways, because there'll be all these different versions of her and her husband interacting, and it's crazy what happens with her. But I think I put movement to it because it's a conscious thing that I'm doing. When these things are just happening around you, I don't feel that like it's got anything to do with me, but I feel that I'm testing, I'm working, I'm being a scientist. So I feel that the movement shifts me into another reality.
Yeah.
That's what I'm surmising.
I see. Okay, so the way I see it is, because I agree with you. I just wanted to hear what you were going to say, because anytime that I've really excelled at manifesting what it is that I want, it is because I have a belief, I have a thought, I put a feeling behind it, and then I take an action. Without the action, you don't, because it has to happen in this physical world. So there has to be a physical element.
Correct. That's what I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree with you.
Yeah. So it's just something that I just know. And there's a lot of things that I just know. I don't know where it comes from. And I'm okay with that. And I just know, and I just feel it. And I know that that's what I'm supposed to do. And I just make a step, and then I just set off, and that's what it is. And that, but I'm so much more now, it more happens to me, but because of what happened with my tooth, comes the responsibility. Which could be a real dampener.
I know. That's like
party pooper.
I know. Just want to have fun.
Oh, and I'll tell you something else as well before we wrap it up. Now, in the divine healing work, there's a dental chart. And for the most part, the dental stuff deals with past lives. So when you've got stuff happening with your teeth, it's usually to do with past life programs, or you're running, or past life beliefs that you're running in the tooth. So if you can clear those, then you can then the aim is to try and save the tooth or clear up indent stuff. Now, I began to realize that at the time when I was shifting a lot, I started having, out of the blue, a lot of stuff that was going on with my dental, with my teeth. And this was last year, whereby it was just chronic. It was chronic. I felt like, oh my God, this is like, can I just stay still in one place? And I've now begun to realize that the teeth isn't just about past lives, it's about all lives, all realities, all dimensions. And I'm wondering if I haven't come across anybody as yet, but I suppose they'll now start to show up, that that you're moving a lot if things start to happen with your teeth. Something's happening, you're shifting. And I don't know what it does. It's whether or not, because the teeth are just like how the hands and the feet and the ears are a holographic representation of the whole body. We know this. So the teeth as well. So the teeth represents all the different parts of our body, because they carry, everything goes through the teeth. So I'm wondering if that has to do with, and as I sit right now, as I stand right now, a lot of the traveling for me has slowed down, thank God. But I go through quite intense periods whereby it shifts, and I know I'm shifting. I know it's happening. And I don't always know why. And that's a good question people ask. Well, why? Somebody did say to me a long time ago, you need to figure out why, because you'll be moved to a point for a reason. And I still haven't figured that out. I can't know everything.
Yeah, I had a root canal on this tooth, and it's gray now. And I'm pretty sure it's dead.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. Like I remember one day I started to get pain in the gum up here.
Yeah.
And it started to swell, and there was it started to fill, I guess like I don't know if cyst is the right word, but it was swollen, whatever it was swollen, and it was filling up with an infection, right? And I just remember going, oh my God, this is so painful. And I had tried to rub anti-inflammatory cream over here, which did help for a little bit, but then eventually I had to go in and get a root canal done, which was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. But because I was scared too. I was like, oh God, not a root canal.
Yeah, that was me. Not a damn chance.
But yeah, but it came on. I don't even know why it would have come on. It didn't make any sense at all.
Then there's some kind of program in the tooth that had come up for healing, or I don't know if traveling or shifting timelines unsettles your teeth, just unsettles it. My teeth have moved and I have no idea why. And it's not because of I've gone into the dentist. Oh, when I was shifting a long time ago, about 7-8 years ago, I was mutating a lot. I was shifting into the person that was going to be doing the light body. I was shifting frequency, and I changed. I had what is called a kind of soul rotation, where and that's also like a shifting, where it's almost like there's a higher form of you comes down into the body, and you slightly it's kind of like the old persona or the resident persona or who I am kind of slightly rotates out, and another frequency. It's the same soul. It's not a different soul. It's not a walk-in of that kind. Rotates down into the body, and in order for that to mesh and meld, and for that part of me to find expression, to change my body, change my teeth, it changed my bite, changed my foot size, everything. I had scans because I thought there was problems wrong, but I was simply mutating. I was simply changing frequency. I know that's going to sound really crazy, and it's going to be a really crazy thing to end on, but yeah, wild and wonderful things happen. You're not going crazy, because I don't think I'm nuts. I can ask me hubby if I'm nuts.
No. I mean,
but the tooth has that tooth you're talking about.
Yes.
There would have been a program underlying it, or a belief system, or there'd been something underlying it. There's either that one, or it's highly possible that you have gone through a lot of frequency changes, and you go through quite high frequencies, and your frequencies, they're not, I'm gonna guess that they're not they're highly charged. They're not like a smooth graduation. Are they like a zap?
Remember, dragons.
Okay, right. And so I think that that is probably what rattled your tooth for some reason. And I'm yet to understand it. And if somebody has the answer to that, or the understanding to that, I'm more than open to hear it.
Well, I'm just going to read here. Whenever we have teeth issues, it means we're holding on to shame, guilt, fear, anger, blame, bitterness. There is a difficulty in making an empowering decision, self-neglect, unresolved childhood issues, and frequent self-sabotage. Or it could also mean feeling overwhelmed and stressed, frustrated about your inability to express yourself clearly. Those are all options. They don't have to all apply. But if I were to imagine this was well before my healing had gone into like the deep end, it was just in the shallow end at that point. And I'm pretty sure almost all of that applied.
Well. Yeah. Really? Yeah. If I think back to last year when this happened.
And it's on the right side, which means male, masculine involvement potentially. So I could be angry at a male. I could be angry that I can't express which was my father wouldn't let me express myself. He always talked over me, yelled over me. I had a lot of male abuse situations. So it makes sense why that could also have been contributing to it.
So that tooth, because I could tell you exactly what that actual individual tooth is saying.
Okay.
Give me a second.
Okay.
Okay. Let me just unplug myself. Give me
Here, I'll pause us.
Yeah. Right.
All right.
So I'm going to a chart in divine healing that is a dental chart. So I'm going to ask you if you can actually we have to figure out what tooth it is, and I can just tell you a few things about the tooth.
It's right. The second one from the...
Right, so you see your two front teeth?
Yeah.
The two front teeth. So...
Sorry, everyone who's watching this.
Just having a bit of...
Hold on a second. I want to make sure, because I don't want to like go right up to the camera and everyone just get a good shot of my gums here. So let me just, let me see. Yeah, it's the second one to the right from the first middle one.
Right. So it's the upper right, and you've got the central incisor. So you're saying you've got your front tooth where you've got that gap there. You got the front tooth, and it's the second one to it.
Yeah.
So that would be the lateral incisor. Yes. That is the gland, right? So the gland that controls that tooth is the pineal gland or the pineal gland.
Of course.
The meridian is the water element, and it's the kidney and the bladder.
Oh, your kidneys, fear.
The emotions, the positive emotions around that is caring, order, and intimacy.
Well, let's, first of all, I had a ton of UTIs as a kid. If it's bladder and kidney, right? And actually I should look that up right now. This is kind of fun, actually. This is like what I do in my healing game changer videos too. Like I go through all this stuff with everyone. But so urinary tract infection, just because, seeking someone to blame for your problems or shortcomings, feeling pissed off, irritated, angry, bitter, carrying a tremendous amount of guilt and fear, deep-seated belief that there is something wrong with you, allowing people to manipulate and control you, not knowing how to stand up for yourself and say no, sexual pressure and shame. Whoa.
Yeah, that's within the two. We've got slightly a more condensed version. So the negative aspects for that tooth would be inflexibility, ego, problems, disorganized, and being aloof. But it also relates it to the vertebrae. So it's related to either the L2, lumbar 2, which is feeling trapped. It can either be L3, which is devastated, the sacrum, which is sexual shame, the coccyx, which is not deserving security. And so the body parts are frontal sinus, foot, sacrum, coccyx, knee, kidney, bladder, and urogenital. So I know what you just spoke about.
Wow, it's so interesting. Like, that's why I love this shit, because our body is the most informative and intelligent messenger
Tells
of
you
our,
everything you need to know.
yeah, like it's such an incredible messaging system.
Yeah.
So that's really wild. So the pineal gland.
Yeah. 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 That's the governing gland for that tooth. Yeah. So how did
So I want to say this for everyone who's listening. This is why I've told so many people, and I did a video on this recently about talking about the importance of working with anger in your healing journey. When I started working with my anger to feel it, to know it, to learn from it, to let it be my teacher so that I could heal through it, my intuition skyrocketed. Really opened me up.
Yeah.
So very interesting that the pineal gland is attached to that tooth, which also has to do with the kidneys and the urinary tract, which here I already knew fear was going to be in there. Bladder, it tends to be, I believe, a little bit of anger as well, because I know the liver is anger, the kidneys are fear.
Yeah.
But the bladder, like obviously it's attached to a very sexual spot. So the shame, I guess, but shame can also cause a lot of like anger.
Yeah.
Shame really
100%.
shuts down your like what you feel you deserve, right?
Yeah, that's what, yeah. That was exactly what that was also speaking about. You know, your pineal gland as well is connected to your fourth eye.
The fourth eye?
Yeah.
Am I an idiot? Did I only knew that there was? Oh wait, are we talking about the fourth eye down there, or
No. What would constitute to the fourth eye down there?
urinary tract eye? Like what?
I never thought about that, but you know.
I'm like, oh, I know there's a third eye. We have a fourth eye. What?
Yeah, you have a fourth eye, which is up here.
Oh.
And it's just the way back. It's just around about here. You have a fourth eye. And it's connected direct into the pineal gland. The fourth eye has it's almost like a different, it's like a bird's eye view of life. And when you look at things from the fourth eye, you can kind of see, and it's different from looking at things with your third eye. You have a different kind of sight, and it's connected direct into your pineal gland. So there's a lot of spiritual information that goes with that eye in a different way, in a different realm.
Oh.
You know?
I did not know that. That's the first time I've ever heard of it.
Yeah. Fourth eye. Wow. Yeah. Many people have a cap over their fourth eye, though. They have a cap that is locked it down, so they don't actually use it and can't see with it. Years ago, I was
How do you know if someone's got a cap on it or not?
Because it's a process within Light Body that we would check for it, and we would unlock it and remove it and open them up. And it also, what it does is by doing that, you also remove the ceiling on their consciousness. Oh. So there's many things that is done to us and done to the body before we come in. When we come into this planet, it's a bit like coming in, it's a bit like going to Diagon Alley, but not in a good way, whereby, you know, you collect all your tools and all your stuff and everything like that. That locks the body down. Mm-hmm. So that contains us in the body and shuts down a lot of it, shuts down your memory and all of that type of stuff. And that's what happens. Years ago, I was doing a speed reading course, and it was a speed reading, but they had created what they said was their USP. And what you did was, they never called it fourth eye because that would not have been commercial. People would have thought, that's gooky, I ain't buying that. But how they taught you to speed read was reading from this point just above here. So you would look from a point just above your head, and you'd look at the spine of the book and just move the pages. And then you could go back and you could test, and you would have, what's in all of those different pages. You read it. So to this day, if I look at a page or a book, I see the whole page. I don't just see the lines that I'm reading. Sometimes it's quite easy to get a bit lost because I can see. So if you give me a page and you ask me, I can see the whole page already. I don't just read the lines. I see it in its entirety, or the 2 pages. I see it in its entirety. But they never said. It was years later that I found out they were teaching people to read from their 4th eye.
That's so interesting. Now I'm going to try it.
Quite phenomenal. Yeah. Something to experiment with.
So does that mean that that's the 5th eye?
No, well, I think you're going to have to patent that.
Oh my goodness. Well, Amanda, it was such a pleasure to have you on the show. I know it's super late where you are right now, so I don't want to take any more of your time, but such a fun conversation. And
thank you. It has
let my audience know if they want to get in contact with you, work with you, where can they find you?
You can find me at thealchemyoflightbody.com.
Okay. And do you have like social media or?
I don't really use my social media for that. I'm not brilliant on social media. So just go to my website, everything's there.
Okay. So I'll make sure to have that in the show notes for everyone. And you're also on the Soul Wisdom podcast.
I was just about to say that, yes, I'm also on your Soul Wisdom podcast. So you can find
I am on, I don't think my episode's gonna, I think my episode's gonna air
coming out next week.
Okay, so because I'm gonna air you next week. So yeah. So,
oh my God, we're coming out at the same time.
Oh, are we coming out on the same week?
We're coming out the same week.
Oh, okay, so perfect. So you guys get double the pleasure.
Wild.
I told you I was going to hit your pleasure centers today. Oh my God, I love it. Well, thank you so much. And to my audience, guys, love you very much. I hope you're having, I hope you enjoyed this episode greatly. And remember, we are 2 weeks away from the retreat when this airs. So if you haven't booked your ticket and you've been sitting on the fence, get off the damn fence and come get a massive transformational healing, please. It's gonna be fun. And other than that, guys, I love you. Have an incredible week, and I'll see you next time. Thanks again for joining me for another show on the Enlighten Up podcast. I love you guys so much for all of your continued support. So remember to raise your vibe, find your tribe, and be open to the infinite possibilities held in the mysteries that surround us all. Thanks again for sharing the show with your family and friends. And if you're new to the show and you need to find out more information about me, please head on over to my website, NicoleFrolick.com, where you can join my newsletter. And please follow me on Instagram, Telegram, and YouTube. Keep your light bright, and I'll see you next week.